The dirt bucket. Absolutely. One thing. Ow, that hurt.
If you'll find a fucking other village. Now that all my villagers die.
Welcome to your Sanity Safe Space.
Not a fucking issue.
With your favorite YouTube podcast.
There you go, you don't listen to my fucking real born in the
Saving the millennial generation in
Beauty and the Beta. Okay. My name is
the
Beta.
Castle Tower and his mother's basement. This is Beauty and the Beta.
We will make America great again. You guys are wrong about it.
Ooh, this is a coronavirus.
We only have one license. We reopened bars and restaurants. But it was for outdoor dining. It was not for outdoor drinking. Bars that are now serving outdoor drinking, that was never legal. And this question of food with the alcohol by our current law, existing law, any bar had to have food available. To be a bar, you had to have food available. Soups, sandwiches, etc. Not just hors d'oeuvres. You had to have some substance of food. the table, and you only connect with those people at the table, and the other table is socially distanced.
Look, you can't be serious, man. You are fake news. You cannot be serious. Very good. I will eat your ass. I'll do it. All right. America, go to the YouTube right now. Yeah, he is. Get your boys, bring your guns out of here. Go. I can't do it. Do it live. Hello and welcome to the show. It is a great show. It is a terrific show. It is a tremendous show. Frankly, the best. You can ask anyone about that. People often do. But they see is beauty and the beta. My name is Matt Christensen. I'm flanked on my right, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Vaughn. Welcome.
I lost your video.
Oh, well, let me fix that.
Sorry,
We have
you
no-
didn't mean to cramp your intro
I've
style.
had the same webcam that goes to you for like probably 8 years. It's probably not, it's not the same one that goes to the stream. The one that goes to you is very poor quality, so it's probably past its time, due for an upgrade. But I will waste no more time on that because there's so much news tonight. I don't even know how we're going to get to all of it. This story out of Austin is wild. Somehow, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been looking at the story, but as far as I understand, an AK-wielding leftist Black Lives Matter supporter guy with a limbless, wheelchair-bound girlfriend was even carrying this AK. Having an interview with somebody, calling everyone else pussies who won't do anything to stop him. And then he ends up shot dead in what appears to be, or sounds like, him opening fire and someone else returning fire.
You will never read that reported anywhere, but I listened to the audio like 10 times, and he definitely shot first. Like, there's no way.
It sounds like, if it's not him, it's someone else with what sounds like rifle fire shooting first. That seems
Yeah.
but we're still awaiting facts, a lot of facts in this case. So,
And she was black and limbless.
yes, we'll get into the limblessness. She had some sort of, well, she still doesn't. He's the one who's dead, not her.
Right.
We'll get to all of it. Plus,
Story's better.
the Portland mayor takes the traditional walk of shame before the mob. It was his turn this week. We'll get to that. Pro sports start coming back, but you can put away your hopes for a non-political entertainment option. America's pastime is now the anti-American pastime, as far as I can tell from the first few games of baseball. We have ever more Corona insanity updates, including Andrew Cuomo dictating what food counts as food in the state of New York for the purposes of outdoor dining. A woman in California wants to paint MAGA 2020 on the streets, since painting Black Lives Matter on the streets is fine, but her city says sorry. No more paintings at all. We're cutting it off there. And a hoax hate case in the form of a letter to the editor at the paper in the small Montana town where I went to high school. Apparently Nazis run the streets there now. In that small town. It's gotten wild since I left. So we'll go through all that. It's going to be a long show for sure, so we'll try to keep it moving. But of course, we will take super chats on YouTube, Streamlabs, and VLive in between topics. And to close the show, $10 and up on the Sunday show, because we are no good, low down money grabbers. You will be all this and more in your favorite couple hours of listening material. Remember, you can find everything show related and support the show over on the website. That's mattchristiansenmedia.com. One of the many things we have featured over there on the website is special deals from listener-owned businesses. Of course, this week, our feature business is our friends over at Sonoran Defense Technologies. Rumor has it that the feds are soon to send out more coronabugs. Rumor also has it that deranged leftist mobs are rioting and destroying major American cities. So, what does that mean? Well, it means you've got to defend yourself, number one. And with your extra coronabugs, you should defend yourself in style. That's where our friends at Sonoran Defense Technologies come in. They specialize in Glock polymer laser stippling to give your go-to piece a unique aesthetic and feel. Sonoran customized a Glock 19 personally for me, and I can tell you it looks as great as it feels in your hand. So whether you're looking to spruce up an old Glock that's been sitting in your safe for a while, or add to your collection with something fresh, Sonoran can help you out. And it's not just Glocks either. Sonoran does custom engraved AR and AK pattern magazines as well. They offer tons of awesome graphic options, and they'll even do something totally custom for you. Your own logo, your own graphic, your own whatever you want. Just get in contact, and Sonoran can make it happen for you. You can see all their fantastic work over on Instagram as well. That's at Sonoran Defense. And Sonoran offers listeners of this show 10% off all their services and products using promo code GEES. That's JEEZ. Visit SonoranDefense.com and use promo code GEES for 10% off. You can find everything you need from Sonoran Defense Technologies, plus the rest of our friendly listener-owned businesses over at MattChristensenMedia.com/deals. Deals for listeners, by listeners. We're going to move right into the stories tonight. In any other week, we probably would have spent a lot more time talking about whatever happened to this federal judge. But we'll move through it quickly tonight because there's so much stuff going on. But what happened here? I didn't follow this story closely.
In any other time, I would be totally convinced that this was a cover-up. I don't know. If this is a cover-up, this is the most complete and excellent cover-up I have ever seen executed. No pun intended. So Roy Den Hollander was named by multiple police sources just Monday as the gunman who shot dead this 20-year-old Daniel Anderl and injured 63-year-old Mark Anderl, which is his father, after arriving at the home they share with Judge Esther Salas in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I'm sure everybody's heard about this. He was dressed as a FedEx employee and he opened fire on Daniel when he opened the door. And the judge was in the basement at the time. She was unharmed. Her husband was the other one that was shot. He's okay, I think. And then she ran upstairs when the shooting began. So the guy that Hollander, the guy that shot Daniel, his body was found in his car on Monday near a campsite. They're assuming it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. That's what it looked like. So the judge, as soon as I heard this, because this judge had recently been assigned to a civil financial fraud case tied to Epstein. It was brought by Deutsche Bank investors who claimed the bank made false and misleading statements about its anti-money laundering policies, and they failed to monitor high-risk customers, including Jeff Epstein. Earlier this month, the bank agreed to pay a $150 million fine for continuing to work with him after he was convicted of soliciting underage prostitutes in 2008. So when I heard this initially, I was like, well, this definitely has something to do with threatening the judge based on the Epstein case, right? Like, has to, totally has to. And then it comes out this week that this guy is this big MRA guy. Now that is confirmed because he's been writing about it publicly for many years. It would predate the Epstein case. So people are saying that his motives remain unclear. In January, he revealed in a press release that he had a lawsuit going on against a New York hospital for the treatment of his metastasized cancer. In the press release, it was called "How Not to Treat a Dying Man," and he wrote that he would fight to my last dollar, my last breath, and if there's anything after my death for eternity, they've shown no respect for a dying man. But also, at the time of his death, he was involved in an ongoing case that this judge was presiding over, in which he argued that the military's male-only requirement for drafting soldiers is sexist because it unfairly sent men to war and not women. So his client wanted to serve in the military as a teenage girl. Though she is free to enlist and qualify, she sued, claiming the draft rule was sexist. It's my understanding that the judge didn't rule against them, so I don't know what the problem was here.
But this guy had a prior and personal involvement with this judge, so he has a connection.
Yes.
On the surface, he has a connection outside of Epstein and the bank and all this other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So she was presiding over this case, and in 2018 she ruled that it would be allowed to move on, potentially to the Supreme Court, and then he was inexplicably replaced as the plaintiff's attorney in June. There have been few developments in recent years, but in June, the judge canceled oral arguments without setting a new date for them, without explanation. So maybe that is the source of the crime.
Okay. Very weird story.
Oh, I'm hearing from my friend Dave. Shout out Whitney Webb's website, unlimitedhangout.com. She did a deep dive on this, and I've heard about Whitney Webb from several people. I'm not super familiar with her, but apparently she's done a lot of work on this. So Hollander had posted thousands of pages of writing on websites registered to his name and address. Among the writing was pages devoted to ranting about the judge. Now, initially, I've got to kind of stick to my initial opinion about this, which is that this is just highly coincidental. But this is a very complete cover-up. But as we talked about before, like we were talking about this with the George Floyd case, it's like, how do you get somebody to do something like this that is just totally ruinous, or they end up dead? And we've mentioned this. If somebody was terminally ill and you promised money to their family, like exorbitant amounts of money to their family, you could coach somebody that was terminally ill into suicide, right?
Well, yeah, if you want to go down that. I mean, it's the Breaking Bad type of scenario. What would you be willing to do to ensure that your family is taken care of when you're terminally ill?
Yeah, I mean, he did get the runaround from this Russian guy.
Was he terminal? Is that known? Or did he just have cancer? Was he actually terminal?
It's my understanding he was terminal because he wrote this, he had a terrible metastasized cancer, and then in that lawsuit, he wrote a press release entitled How Not to Treat a Dying Man.
Well, all I know is as friends jokingly warned me this week, if you get an unexpected FedEx delivery after posting a whole bunch of Hillary memes, run away from the door. He rings the doorbell.
Yeah,
Get
really.
away quickly.
But I also think that the MRA angle is highly suspicious. Highly suspicious.
How so? I mean, if he's been doing this for years prior, then that seems like a plausible. That seems like a plausible reason to be beyond any sort of conspiracy stuff.
Yeah, I know, but perhaps he was selected for that reason. I don't know. Am I being conspiratorial? I feel like in this timeline, like to accept this at face value would be the dumber thing. But maybe this is just what it seems.
Could be. I have to check out the deep dives. And amid all the chaotic news this week, I just haven't looked at it super closely. So
it's a weird story. You'll just go into the abyss reading about it. It's crazy.
We have a couple updates too before we get into big stories of the week. But of course, earlier in the week, the insane St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner filed felony charges against the McCloskeys, the pink polo guy and his wife, for unlawful use of a weapon. Also misdemeanor charges of fourth-degree assault. So we'll see how this plays out in court. It likely doesn't matter at all, because even if they were to be, well, first of all, Missouri's castle doctrine will likely protect them, but even if it doesn't, if they were convicted, Missouri's governor is already out saying, I'm going to pardon them without a doubt. Nothing much legally as we've happened to them, but for a unfair, unnecessary, prolonged legal battle, potentially. None of that is particularly interesting. What is interesting is what is going on with the gun, Patricia McCloskey's gun, the pistol, the famous pistol on which she had terrible trigger discipline. Well, apparently, that pistol was not assembled in an operable fashion when the police seized it. So the McCloskeys say the pistol was actually a prop that had been previously used in court. It was part of a lawsuit. Remember, they're lawyers. It was part of a lawsuit they had filed against a gun manufacturer. In order to bring the gun into the courtroom, they had to make it inoperable. The firing pin, apparently, in the gun was intentionally misplaced. So a member of Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's staff ordered the crime lab to disassemble and reassemble the gun prior to the charges being filed. Now, cynically, that looks like the manipulation of evidence for the purpose of filing charges. I've heard other people say that it could have been them assessing the functionality of the gun to make sure that it was indeed, that it could be rendered operable very easily and actually kill people. We'll see how this one plays out, but in the charging documents, Kim Gardner wrote the gun was readily capable of lethal use. So it was not immediately capable of lethal use, but through some manipulation, certainly could have been. This brings up an interesting legal question, though. And I invite the legal scholars of our audience to opine, because I have no idea. Is there generally a legal distinction between pointing an operable gun versus a non-operable one? Let's say, in a hypothetical, if I remove the bolt carrier from an AR, it still looks like an AR in its external appearance, but you can't actually shoot around it. if I were to point that AR at somebody, I would assume that the same charges would still apply, because that's the same intimidation effort that would be interpreted the same by the person who's having the gun pointed.
Well, what about just an unloaded gun?
Yeah, that'd be another hypothetical. If there are no rounds in it whatsoever, and you have no rounds on your person or
I'm sure it's the same.
I would think so. I would think so, but I don't know. That's why I'm curious why this distinction apparently matters so much. It was a real gun. It had the parts. The parts were assembled incorrectly or intentionally manipulated such to render it inoperable.
Yeah, I've seen some conflicting stuff going on.
I would like
Laurel
to
knows better.
Yeah, if there are some people with the knowledge on this one, I'd like to know. It's an interesting question. And lastly, Nick Sandman, of course, famed, fresh off his 18th birthday, by the way. Happy birthday to Nick Sandman. Famed Covington Catholic MAGA hat-wearing assault smurfer, Nick Sandman, you'll recall. He has settled his $250 million lawsuit against the Washington Post. Now, that doesn't mean that he collected $250 million. The terms of the settlement are not public, but it's safe to say that Nick Sandman is getting some sort of compensation for the smear job that was done against him by the Washington Post in this case. Recall that this case initially was dismissed last July, but Sandman's lawyers refiled with a narrower scope. Sandman also settled a similar lawsuit with CNN in January, of course. So that's 2 of Sandman's 6 lawsuits settled. There are still suits against ABC, NBC, the New York Times, and Rolling Stone. And I think there's another one connected. So he still has a lot of
he's going to be so rich. Even if he's only taking away $5 million after lawyer fees from each one of these cases, that's $30 million.
Invest it wisely and you could live off your defamation.
For real, and his grandkids. Yeah. I just hope that he turns out well and doesn't spend more than like 10% off of this on political movies.
He seems like a wise young man. He's had a religious upbringing. He seems like a person with standing values.
That's true, but you're $30 million.
Get out of my house, cow.
Reputation has been totally destroyed. I mean, that could go really, really wrong.
It could. We'll see.
Lotto money destroys people's lives.
You see on his bio here on Twitter, he says TU24. I'm not sure what university he plans to attend, but that implies to me that he is going to some sort of college of sports. He's not staying at home. He's not buying FC files on the cheap.
Yeah, they're taking a year off to talk about that, right? What is his name? Oh my god, Dave.
What happened? Corona?
I don't know. Is that year up?
I don't know. Did he go to school last year or not? Or wasn't it? Because he took 18, 19 off, right? He was a senior at the time of the part of the shooting. That was February 2018. So he would have been he took a year off fall 18, spring 19. And should have been in school fall 19, spring 20. So
Oh no.
I suppose he has a Harvard year under his belt. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk about all the decaying, rotting Democrat-run cities before we get into Austin. But that, of course, starts with Seattle and Portland, who continue their war from the deepest depths of the Pacific Northwest hellscape. And they both up to their games. So, in Seattle, violent extremists injured nearly 24 officers in yet another attack on the East Precinct, the same part of the where the original Chaz takeover happened, of course. Seattle PD say their fence line at the East Precinct was breached, and an exploding projectile was shot at the building, leaving an 8-inch hole in the side of the building. You see some pictures here. Now, due to that attack, Seattle PD declared a riot and ordered dispersal of the area. The crowd threw bottles and balloons filled with unknown liquid and shot mortar, fireworks, and explosives from the cops. There were reportedly 45 arrests and 21 police injuries. One cop went to the hospital for a knee injury. And that means it's your move, Portland. And the state of Oregon, first of all, the state of Oregon's attempts down in Portland to sue the feds away from enforcing the law in the city has failed, or at least one of the lawsuits has failed. A federal judge ruled that federal agents have a right to protect federal property, enforce federal laws, and do not have to identify themselves when making an arrest. Recall that was the controversy we talked about last week, kidnappings on the streets of Portland. However, there is yet another pending lawsuit that has now imposed a temporary restraining order that bars federal officials from arresting or using physical force against journalists unless there's probable cause that those journalists committed a crime. Of course, there's plenty of probable cause to go around in Portland, so it's unlikely that simply holding a camera will
Yeah,
shield.
who's a journalist?
The lines are very blurry, but if you commit a crime in plain sight, you can't hold up a camera or a microphone or a notebook and expect not to face justice. So, I'm not exactly sure what prompted that lawsuit. Was there some journalist who was improperly or falsely arrested, presumably? But in chaos like that, it can happen. If you're not detained for an unreasonable amount of time, or you don't have false charges filed against you, yeah, I mean, it's not great, but you're also operating within a quasi war zone. Shit will happen. And speaking of those attacks, there were plenty more this weekend. On Saturday, violent extremists carried out, they carried out a 50-plus day streak of attacking federal courthouse. I think they're closer to 60 now. 2 months straight of violent riots at night. According to Portland PD, there were thousands of rioters gathered at this courthouse. They shook the fence around the building. They threw rocks. They threw bottles. They threw assorted debris. They shined, it's a new thing they're doing, lasers, or I don't know if it's new, but this is what's having a significant effect at the moment. Shining lasers at the cops' eyes as they shot explosive fireworks. Rioters were wearing gas masks, carrying shields, high-distance leaf blowers, other weapons. Portland police also declared a protest on Saturday. And they're just, you can scroll through this story, there are just too many clips of violence and destruction to even share with you. And you've seen the general theme of them by now. But at least in one of these attempted fires that were set, you get the joy of seeing the rioters lighting one of their own on fire. It's always a satisfaction. You love those. And that's not bad enough. This is the stuff. Light yourselves on fire. Please don't light public property on fire. That's not good. But these sorts of scenes bother me the most. You got people parading their children around downtown Portland with "fuck the police" signs, training them to repeat that slogan. Say it again. Thank you.
Ooh, over here. Oh yeah, that got your attention. Why are there 2 chickens in here? Where the fuck did those come from?
What about a fat white single mom with a variety pack child kid right there?
She got the Costco pack, yeah. It would seem so.
One of each in there, for real. I think there was a white kid, a Mexican kid, and a black kid. How is that even possible?
Real rainbow, but I hate to see scenes like that. It's heartbreaking for these kids. These kids are screwed from the start. Anyway, speaking of the lasers, though, apparently what's going on with these lasers, they're targeting cops' eyes with these lasers and shining them in their eyes. According to the White House, there are now 3 agents who have likely suffered permanent blindness because of these laser attacks. And
Seriously?
That's what the reporting says, but I don't have any confirmation of that. That's what the White House is claiming. What's true is that the feds have purchased a bunch of protective eyewear to try to counter these laser attacks. And so all of that is the context for Ted Wheeler to engage in the tradition of being a progressive mayor who has to do the walk of shame before the mob and atone for all their sins, which is basically a lot of people that want to commit crimes with impunity. Last we saw this sort of behavior, that was the stream that you were out, but I'm sure you saw the clips of Jacob Fry in Minneapolis doing the walk of shame before the mob. Did you catch that one? Oh man, it was so good. It was while you were getting voted, so more important things to tend to. But to recap, so he went out to the protests in Minneapolis, and the mob brought him before them, just if he supported defunding the police. He meekly said below his mask or beneath his mask, oh, the mob gets angry and aggressive and starts chanting, shame, 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 Game of Thrones style. He has to march off. It was one of the best scenes of the movie so far. Now Ted Wheeler in Portland is doing his version of that. He joined the Portland riots on Wednesday night. He was accosted by the mob. Of course, he was called a fascist. And they were yelling at him again for not committing to fully defund the Portland police. And then at the end, he was at the fence of the federal courthouse, and he was tear-gassed by the fence for not dispersing the area. Here's Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. I think they're saying Fontaine Wiener.
Yeah, that's what sounds like.
That's a good one. So they're demanding his resignation. They're going to put in the demand for his resignation up on the wall behind him. And there's one other clip I included in here that I thought you'd appreciate because he's trying to speak over the mob, but they're so loud you can't even hear him. Thank God he has his sign language interpreter behind him at the mob site doing the sign language sign. Saying, no, I don't support defunding the police.
Is the sign language person just going like this?
One of them, she does this kind of thing and it looks quasi-pornographic to be the judge. There's the demands defund or retire Ted Wheeler. So while he's doing the speech, or around the same time, they're shooting the fireworks at the courthouse still, as you can see. And there's the tear gas. I saw
Seriously?
Nothing at all. I don't know what you saw. Maybe you didn't see the lasers in people's faces. But again, friendly reminder, we're now at roughly day 60 of consecutive rioting. And that's to say nothing of the prior years of this bullshit. I remember such events as the mob building a biohazard encampment outside the DHS office in downtown Portland, and the mayor cheering them on. That mob was so aggressive they ran a charity food cart out of business across the street. Remember that whole story? I remember when the Antifa mobs were directing traffic downtown Portland and assaulting old people who dared to go about their day in defiance of the mob. Bottom line, the feds could withdraw. The feds could abandon that courthouse and Donald Trump could resign tomorrow. And Portland would continue its rot. It would continue its decline into this hellhole that it's becoming. But yeah, please tell me that it's the feds who are the problem. It's Donald Trump who's the problem. And that is what Ted Wheeler is doing. He's still sticking with his story. He says the feds are targeting Portland for political purposes, and the feds are doing the terrorizing.
The President of the United States uses force, and he uses it selectively based on the political affiliation of the people who are the elected leaders in those cities. That is a direct threat to democracy, and we need to call it out for what it is. It's dangerous, it's unwarranted, it's cynical, and it's the cheapest of all political stunts. All of us are saying to our federal government, stop terrorizing us, stop putting us in danger, stop destroying our community. And when we start to see this spread to other communities around the country, as we are, elevate this issue, and Americans all over the country say, we have had enough, I believe the federal government will be forced to back down.
Yeah, the federal government wasn't terrorizing you for like the last 5 years. In fact, the federal government's only been involved there for the last week and a half or 2 weeks. yet you've still been terrorizing your city yourself the whole time. I saw these photos circulating this week. I thought it was just an interesting juxtaposition. You've got Hong Kong protesters on the left, American flags, fighting for freedom, fighting for liberty. Portland protesters on the right, hammers and sickles, and just general face masks before they were even necessary, actually. But you come to this particular once beautiful U.S. city to see people begging for comments, begging for statements, begging for the oppression that people elsewhere in the other parts of the world are seeking to be free from. Full disclosure on this, a lot of people were knocking this juxtaposition because that's a photo from Portland in 2018. That's true. It's not from this week. It's in 2018.
Doesn't that just reinforce the point that
Yes.
has been happening in previous years?
Did the feds make them do that? Is that terrorism caused them to be open communists waving hammer and sickle flags?
Yeah, really. And I love this argument from Democrats and from Wheeler that democracy is the value that we're supposed to be defending. Like, can we all see at this point in
Oh, is
time,
that a
with
village?
mask mandates and everything else going on,
That's
that
a
democracy is clearly a farce? None of us have any power to affect change on any meaningful governmental level. Like, hearing this from somebody is just so preposterous at this point, because the veil has been lifted from your eyes if you aren't a fucking retard.
Well, and democracy without rights is just tyranny of another form. It's just tyranny of the majority or tyranny of the mob. And to your point, that's really the number one tourist attraction in Portland right now. Tyranny of the mob. If you're an enthusiast of that sort of thing, that's the place to be. But there are other cities where you can really have a sampling of what that's like. Of course, Minneapolis was like that in months prior with the George Floyd incident. Minneapolis's peaceful protests caused $500 million in destruction, of course. Now we know that they were just a little less peaceful. Authorities searching the wreckage of a South Minneapolis pawn shop that was charred in the riots found a burned body of a man inside. So, 2 months later, we found a body inside of one of these pawn shops, burned down. A 25-year-old man from Rochester, Minnesota, has already been charged with the arson of that site. That this body discovery will result in additional charges if the death is ruled a homicide and that will be Minneapolis's 36th of the year. That compares to just 18 in the same time frame last year. So twice the murders this year so far as last year, that far. And it would also be the second death of the riots. A rioter was shot dead by a man outside of his business at the time of the riots, but the business owner was later released and no charges have been filed in what appears to be a case of self-defense, though the man's relatives, the guy who was shot, they dispute the claim that he was looting the store. But for whatever reason, prosecutors, even in Minneapolis, are not pursuing charges in that case. And if you do live in Minneapolis, and the crime and the murder stats have you worried, don't worry. State Attorney General Keith Ellison has a plan for you. He was on a Zoom call with Congresswoman Karen Bass of California and PBS NewsHour correspondent Yamiche Alcindor. Keith says if you're a woman who gets raped and the attacker runs away, you'd probably rather see a social worker than a cop anyway. Why don't we just go ahead and defund the police?
You're a woman who's been a victim of a sexual assault and the assailant has ran away. Wouldn't you rather talk to somebody who is trained in helping you deal with it, what you're doing, as opposed to somebody whose main training is that they know how to use a firearm, right?
No. Actually, no, I wouldn't.
I would probably like them to use the firearm to go find the perp. Not that you don't want help of other sorts too. But yeah, never mind the fact, of course, too, that police departments do have special units trained to deal with sexual assaults and sexual assault victims. It's also happening. It's also getting crazy in Chicago.
Getting crazy.
Yeah, sorry. It's status quo of crazy is maintaining in Chicago. Actually, this is the least crazy thing because this is comparatively peaceful. We're not even talking about the norm of shootings per weekend. That's just common. But as protesters and rioters are doing in all of these progressive cities, eventually they move on to eat their own mayors, as we just saw from Ted Wheeler. In Chicago this week, they protested outside Lori Lightfoot's home. Hundreds defunding police departments and funding for social programs. It's not the destruction here that is noteworthy. It's the lack of mask discipline and the total lack of care for social distancing. You can check all the failed social distancing rules and failed masking rules that are ongoing here. Here's some of the scenes from the protest.
Proof of what's estimated to be 1,000 marchers on lockdown near Mayor.
That's true. I can't zoom in on that, but that is front and center poop. I can't tell if the bike is propping it up or if that is just its natural state.
Yeah, I think she's got a fupa over the bikes.
She's got a de facto fupa push-up bra. Yeah.
Lori Lightfoot.
I think she's got a mask, really concerned about her health.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they started that protest and rally for calls to defund the police in Logan Square.
Speaking of boobs. No masks, dancing, shouting. Remember, you just better not get a haircut or eat at a restaurant because that's killing grandma.
Oh my god.
This is all fun. Also, the Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. You may remember her for investigating swings at the city park as a nuisance in a private hosting segment. She had her home vandalized this week. Vandals spray painted graffiti on her garage door, the sidewalk, and a stone wall, calling for the cancellation of rent and homes for all. I go in my notes here. I had hose for all. But that might also be one of the mob's demands. You know, that sounds highly plausible. Of course, ironic that the Black Lives Matter sign in her window did not save her from the mob treatment. And don't forget, amid all of this chaos, Joe Biden is still running for president. Joe Biden is just hiding in a basement, hoping that you won't notice all of these hellscapes. You won't notice that all of these hellscapes are the exclusive domains of the Democratic Party. You're supposed to observe the chaos and get mad at the power in place, Donald Trump, I suppose, and vote for the bumbling, hardly coherent, blatantly, debatably dead old man to fix it all. If you want to argue that Joe Biden is alive in any meaningful sense, he had 2 submissions of his senility this week. Did you happen to catch these clips? At least the first one is coherent. It might be factually wrong, but it's a complete sentence, so I gotta give credit where due. But he first claimed that Trump...
I gotta give credit where due. He's just speaking coherent sentences.
Here's Joe Biden.
No sitting president's ever done this. Never have. We have racists that exist and they try to get elected, but he's the first one that has.
Oh, that's
Never mind. But by my count, 10 of the first 12 presidents were slaves at some point, except for John Adams and John Quincy Adams. Anyway, Biden...
What about LBJ? Has anybody heard those Nixon tapes?
More recent examples, their hero FDR, not particularly kind to the Japanese.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just... That's the thing.
No,
it's
that
like,
wasn't
even
just
if I
that.
grant to you that Donald Trump has racist opinions, which I really don't, to be honest. But even if I did grant that, you have significant racially motivated punitive policy in the past, including the actual legal subjugation of entire races in the form of slavery, in the form of internment of the Japanese. So, weird statement, but at least it was coherent. Like I said, he actually did a stream, another live stream, this week. Check out this clip from his basement. He's rambling about God knows what. Something about how nurses used to treat him back in the day, something like that.
Nurses at Walter Reed Hospital who would bend down and whisper in my ear. Go and get me told to make sure they actually probably never taught you can't do it in COVID time, but they actually breathe in my nostrils to make me.
Okay, good story.
What? Did he say breathe in my nostrils?
So,
And Black Chick's like, oh, man.
I guess he's going to need nurses to breathe in his nostrils to keep him active in the Oval Office.
Blow in my nose holes to keep me awake. Old Joe.
Apparently, 19 or 20 people were watching this live stream, according to this screen capture. Now, in fairness, this was on the channel of SCFU and healthcare workers. It was on Joe Biden's channel. I think there were like 3,000 subscribers on the channel, so not quite a fair assessment. However, the replay of the stream, which presumably would have been promoted by the Biden campaign, or maybe not, it seems like that, I don't know. The stream has 3,600 views in the multiple days since it's been posted. That's
well, somebody was smart and clipped that shit.
Barely alive. 3,600.
Barely alive, Biden.
Before we wrap up this segment, I did want to mention of all these, female politicians that are trying to placate, and Wheeler, that are trying to placate these mobs. Let this be a lesson to anybody that tries to placate any mob. You will never go far enough. There's nothing you can do. This is why no matter what you say, whether or not it was racist, what you did, whether or not it was racist, never apologize. Because at least you can walk away with your integrity and your self-respect. They're going to ruin your life anyway. They're just going to show up to your house. They're going to be vandalizing all your property. It's not going to make a difference how much you self-flagellate.
Destruction and finger pointing is all they know. These are people who are incapable of creating. These are people who only know how to destroy and take and point fingers at other people. And even if you validate that thirst from them and throw them a bone, they'll be back tomorrow with a new finger to point, or a new claim to something that isn't theirs, or a new whatever, a new demand. You cannot appease these people, absolutely. We got shootings to discuss. Should we take a quick break before we hop into those, or should we? That's going to be another lengthy segment.
I don't hear the baby, so let's go for it.
Okay. You want to just roll through the shootings, and then we'll take a break after that?
Yeah, I'll just take probably 15 minutes.
Okay. Sounds good. Tell me what happened in Austin. I have some of the clips, so just let me know. But I didn't. I saw the headlines this morning, and I saved the headlines because I knew we were going to talk about it, but I didn't have a chance to dig into it. And then as you were looking at it, you were telling me more and more information, and the story kept getting crazier and crazier. So what are we dealing with here?
Alright, there's this dude killed. His name was Garrett Foster. His mother confirmed that it was him. She did a Good Morning America interview yesterday. She said that her son had attended several peaceful protests almost every day for the past 50 days with his fiance, Whitney Mitchell, who is a black quadruple amputee.
Oh,
so
what
they're
the
saying,
fuck?
this is the narrative, that this guy Foster was pushing his quadruple amputee, who I'm so proud of this joke, I've been calling her R2 Dindu 2. I'm so proud of myself. Like, I can't wait until I can tell that on the show. Yeah, thank you. I feel like I earned that. So they're saying that he was just like pushing her wheelchair around. Maybe we should watch the audio. What should we watch first?
Let's definitely watch the shooting first. But what's the context here, generally? It's just a general Black Lives Matter protest in Austin.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And initially, it was claimed that this guy, his AK, that he was just the car and opened fire.
Just like open fire on him. So you guys can be the judge of that. Let's do the audio, the one where you can the audio.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. You can't see anything in the footage, as far as I can tell. You can't see much.
No.
What I hear is 4 or 5 rifle rounds being discharged, and then a brief gap in time, and then 3 or so
handgun,
softer sounding rounds.
Right.
It's hard to say, but the narrative was that the car just drove up and opened fire on him. I hear what sounds like rifle shots first. Here's the footage.
Yeah. That sounds like 5 from the AK, and then 3 from whatever gun the guy in the car.
It definitely sounds like 2 distinct firearms. And that would infer 2 shooters. That's kind of what people are wondering. And people are inferring from this AK guy opened fire on the car returned fire with
and killed him.
handgun and killed him.
Right, but the like, I'm just pushing around my black disabled girlfriend, and this guy just drove up on me and brandished his gun and put 3 bullets in me. Now, in all the coverage of this, I never saw, like, some right-wing person disturbed the protest and opened fire on this guy. We definitely would have heard about it if that was the case. So, the dude that's responsible for this, they're saying, probably returned fire. He's in custody, just went straight to custody. And nobody knows who he is, and I haven't heard anything about how he's right.
Whoa, creeper! Oh man!
Now, I don't know that would be the case if this was what they were saying it is.
Whoa, another creeper!
This person is somebody that meant to disrupt the protest. I bet you $1 million somebody was just pissed off that they were obstructing traffic, they were trying to get through, and then they just happened to carry. And then homeboy is all mad. He's all mad that, like you said, that maybe they just pushed the chick in front of the car.
It is my total speculation that I will gladly return to this story when the facts are out and correct the record. Based on the incomplete fact that here was my speculation that you can see everybody in the street. We know the potential for blocking traffic for the next protest. My guess is that wheelchair-bound girlfriend is in the street as potentially some sort of prop for exactly this sort of agitation. And that the car gets too close to the wheelchair girlfriend or whatever is a perceived threat. And AK guy here decides to open fire on the car due to whatever interaction resulted from car close to girlfriend. That would be my guess. Now,
whoa, live chat saying that that was released. The driver was released.
Wow, okay.
Can somebody give me a name real quick?
Yeah.
Because the last story that I put in here was updated, I don't know, 5 hours ago. I thought that was close enough to the show, but I guess not. I probably should check right
A lot of
before the
info
show.
coming out, so if you guys do have more information, please let us know. Now, the other piece of this that you mentioned, the question is, if we accept the idea that AK guy opened fire first, which that's what it sounds like, the question would be, why? And potentially there was some sort of traffic dispute. Based on, possibly, as you mentioned, the most unfortunate interview segment, the most poorly aged interview segment of all time.
Of all time.
It would sound like this guy had some desire to potentially fuck around and find out. He might have fucked around and found out. Since we know this is the same night,
It was like an hour
so, okay.
for the shooting.
Shortly before he dies, he's interviewed with someone on the street, and he's explaining why he's open carrying his rifle.
They don't let us march in the streets anymore, so I gotta practice some of our basic. I think if I use it against the cops, I'm dead. And I think all the people that hate us and, want to say shit to us are too big of pussies to stop and do anything about it, so.
Well, I guess somebody was not a pussy and did something about it. That sounds like what happened.
Actually, creeper, you can help.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any updates online, you guys. Sure that the driver was released? Can someone give me a source on that? Because I don't want to put misinformation up on this, but we're going to find out through the show.
I would say to anybody listening to this, especially if you're listening, this is a developing story. You absolutely should check up on it because there's a lot of incomplete information. Given all of the evidence I've seen, I do not buy the narrative. The witness is quoted in this Daily Mail piece saying, yeah, the car just drove up and opened fire. Sorry, I do not buy that this was just a random drive-by that just happened to target this guy. Not a chance. Not a chance. He has some involvement. Guaranteed.
The identity of the person who shot and killed Foster has not been confirmed, nor the identity of the second person who fired on the driver's car as he pulled away. So there was a second shooter.
Really?
So
someone shot at the driver as he left.
Someone shot at the driver. So it's possible that this guy didn't fire anything.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Because I listened to the footage and all I heard was, but then who shot him would be the question. I mean, I heard 2 groupings of shots, like 5 rifle rounds and 3 sounds like handgun.
People are saying that they've both been released, but if the driver shot the guy, he would not have been released.
well, we'll have to return to the story. And of course, if you're listening later, I encourage you to do so. We definitely will, because this story is insane. And I'll keep you updated. Tell me.
That hung girl wasn't
Stop. Okay, I have to, you're right, I have to give Rashawn's word there. But, my God, she got a rough hand in life. Or didn't she?
She got no rough hands.
Moving on, tell me what happened in Louisville.
So, right when you told me that I was looking up NFAC. No, wait, what is it again?
Not
fucking around coalition. Is that?
I've seen them characterized as black nationalists. I just don't know. And since everyone calls everyone white nationalists, I don't want to view these guys unfairly as black nationalists. That's just what I've seen them called. But I do know that they are a group of armed black militia guys who go by the name Not Fucking Around Coalition. As I was saying before we left, they are now
I respect that.
clearly fucking around coalition. That's it. They are CFAC now.
So I don't know how this happened, but 3 members of this armed militia were shot in an apparent accident at a protest calling for justice for Breonna Taylor in Louisville on Saturday. So the 3 members, all members of NFAC, they never say in this article what that stands for.
Well, they censored it out in the ABC on the line. The F around it.
Suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The shooter was also a member of the militia. The group's founder, John Grandmaster J. Johnson, told ABC that members of the militia were inspecting firearms prior to the demonstration when a woman's weapon was accidentally discharged.
Oh.
Johnson referred to the woman as a trainee. So how...
Who gave that chick a gun?
How do you shoot 3 people?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, why
because
is
you're
the
a
barrel
woman.
aimed at people while you're checking your weapon? Second of all,
she's an
was it
overachiever.
one accidental discharge?
Yep,
And
yep.
Does that mean that it
Hold on.
penetrated
Yep,
the
hooray.
hit something and caused debris to hit them? How 3 people were wounded in one accidental discharge seems kind of
hooray.
Well, then maybe they're lying, but then I was thinking, like, why would they lie? Is it Louisville? Did I say Louisville? Sorry, guys.
No, it's Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay, because somebody just in the line just...
Listen.
Okay, good. I thought so. All right. Don't make me second guess myself, live chat.
Yeah, they're trolling me tonight, I think.
They are trolling me. But I wonder why they would lie. Like, that's where I get hung up, because it's like, telling people that you have a negligent discharge because the people in your coalition are not firearm proficient is like a really embarrassing admission about your incompetence and how you haven't fed anybody. So I wonder what story they could be covering that would be worse than that.
I don't know. That's a weird one. I was told too that the 3 percenters were going to meet these guys for some sort of like militia combat or something, but I don't think that happened. I don't know. I know Laurel had some information on that, so I'll have to catch up with her. She might know.
This Aurora thing is like the least interesting of all of these.
I just like the clip. But yeah, there's another shooting in Aurora, Colorado.
Should we just watch the clip?
I just like it. So, general context here, protesters on the interstate or highway in Aurora protesting Elijah McClain, who was shot by police, I believe, in Aurora about a month ago. And supposedly the cops were supposed to have the highway blocked off for the protesting. Somehow a car gets through. You have your usual protester-car conflict, and there was a shooting in that chaos. What I like about the clip is that the protesters are on the highway chanting racist pigs have got to go and such. And then as soon as the shooting happens, who do they blame? They blame the cops. Of course, the cops are the #1 cause of this event.
That's what the Aurora Police Department did! That's what they
I could watch video footage of protesters getting hit by cars all day long. All day long.
I can't even tell what the hell happened there. Was it the car shooting at them? Was it them shooting at the car?
I don't know. Just, if you're gonna film something like this, don't freak out. Just stay there for my benefit, even if it is painful.
At least he filmed in horizontal orientation.
That's true. I am seeing the live chat. The Austin Police Department has a video up on Facebook saying that all parties will be released. I saw that in the live chat, and I have not corroborated it from any source, so I don't know if it's true.
Well, if you tell me what happened in the shooting, I can look. I can verify that.
Okay. So after the Jeep ran into the crowd, one protester pulled out a gun and appeared to be aiming it at the Jeep, but instead shot another protester in the leg.
Okay.
Witnesses said the wounded protester was just breathing, so it's fine. Aurora police continue shooting allegation, and they're investigating. And then this was all protesters complained, blow, gun melt on, and then he died. I don't even remember reading about this when it happened. This was in 2019, August 2019. Yeah.
The Austin Police Department 3 hours ago did post a video briefing 10 minutes long on this case. Live, it's 10 minutes, and they don't give a description in the video of what is actually said here, so unfortunately I can't listen to it. But I can't
Well, if they've been released, then, you know.
The description here, I can put it up on screen, but the description says nothing about any sort of release. It just says APD Chief Police Brian Manley provides media briefings in regards to homicide number 28 that occurred Saturday night. After this, they had another briefing 11 hours ago. It doesn't have more information in text without listening to the whole thing. Briefing. I don't know what to say. Anyway, the last thing too, on this one. This was a big story this week. What the hell happened with this? I thought this was a joke photo.
No.
Black Lives Matter guy like kneeling on a toddler.
This is what happens when you don't stay with the father of your child. This is the boyfriend. Okay. So this photograph, I actually didn't know that Vincent James Reynolds he broke this.
Really? Okay.
That's what the Daily Pundit says. So, a photo of a man kneeling on the neck of a white baby while another person holds the child's arms and the child is crying. It's just blown up on social media. And then the caption was Black Lives Matter now.
I assume.
Yeah, so the man in the photo, his name is Isaiah Jackson. He lives in Ohio. Somebody with that name was arrested on July 20th for probation violation. So the paternal grandmother of this kid wrote on Facebook that the photo was taken 2 days ago while the 2-year-old was with his mother, who is dating Jackson. Don't want to get banned. She told Gateway Pundit that her son did not find out about it until yesterday morning. She provided some screenshots with conversations in which the mother attempted to get the photo and fresh about it, calling the person ignorant and claiming that he wasn't hurting him, so apparently the mother was there watching this. But she claimed that she was not present when the photo was taken. So the pissed off grandmother said the baby is now safe with her son, and she said, "My son is beyond pissed. Took the boy to the ER to get checked out. Everything came back good. He better be glad nothing bad happened to my grandson, and he better hide from all the people who will be coming for him when he gets out of jail." So I guess this is being investigated by Clark County. They haven't arrested anybody or anything, but I did read that the mother can now only see the child when the father is present.
Okay.
Good. Fucking weird.
Anyway, alright, that's all we got on that. And of course, we got all of the great anti-American moments of the sports weekend. But we're probably due for a break, so what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be back at, maybe I'll be back at 7:15 if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll plan for that. We'll catch up with Super Chat in the meantime. And as always, thank you to the Marines for patience with want.
Oh, fuck. You gotta wait.
What I forget is I always have to want to forget our good friends over at the Certainly not the treasure chest. No, it's open up the treasure what's going on. Type it over on D-Live, Base Dollar says, well, it's just a link. It's a link to the Austin shooting story. So, anyway, so we've gone through it, but if there's more information on what's happening, please do visit more information. This thing's developing as we speak, so, and I'm just as eager to learn if that's the way it's said. So, thank you, Mr. Base Dollar. Let's see what's going on over on YouTube as it takes me 10 years to scroll through Susan's greatly improved system. Hopes is all awesome. Let's see what we got. M. Yelling says, hey Matt, thanks a lot for getting onto Spotify. I can never watch YouTube live because I work early mornings. Spotify uses a lot less bandwidth compared to YouTube, and that's a big deal. Well, glad to hear it. And I looked at the numbers, and it looks like a good chunk of people have been listening on Spotify. So, of course, it's my goal to make the show available where I can in Spotify and not necessarily. So that's a reminder to everyone else, if you would like to listen to your shows on Spotify, we're there. It's linked in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Eric Burns Marsh says, to my favorite podcasters, enjoy a Red Bull on me. Yes, exactly too. Red Bull, I love energy drinks. It's one of my favorite vices. Red Bull is always priced out of Red Bull. So I'll have to grab one. But I don't know if this is a reference to Red Bull. There was a story this week that Red Bull fired some of its executives that were looking for some particular diversity initiative. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is a reference to that. I'll have to look into the story. Maybe I should become a Red Bull person and get it. Thank you, Eric. Old Ray says, hi, Truth Seekers. Curious if you guys pay attention to Fed monetary policy and how it guides your investment decisions. I do not follow it closely. So I can't, I'm not a great financial mind. Juan knows more about finances generally than I do. My strategy on managing money in general is the same thing as my YouTube survival strategy. That's just diversify. I don't like to have any sorts of, I just don't like any eggs in one basket. So, not a great investment mind. I couldn't tell you about that getting into crypto or any of that stuff. I've tried to just kind of dabble in little things here and there to make sure that if Susan or whoever comes after any one of my revenue streams or any other sorts of assets that I would hold, that I'll be okay. So I probably should think about that, to be honest, but thank you. BD says, tell me a joke, Matt, make me laugh. It's been a crappy day. Well, as I've said, I can't do jokes on demand. The pressure is too great.
You shush.
But I hope some of the prior jokes were well, I hope the stream can make for a better day. I'm sorry to hear that it's crappy. I hope Derek says, give me a wing sandwich. What is that? Between two pieces of bread. Does that count as substitute? Big Name McGee says, I'm from Austin, and while I'm sorry it happened, it's good to know my claim that they really didn't want to try this garbage in Texas was correct. After around and find out. Yeah, it seems so. And I don't know that I've seen a more poorly aged or ironic clip than that guy basically saying, yeah, I will ever find out that is what happened. And I say this, footage is not clear exactly what happened. I'm saying this, making inferences based on what. So, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I may have to come back to the story and totally revise my entire opinion on it. But based on that interview clip, that guy does not seem particularly well-intentioned or intelligent. Unfashionable observation says 6 steps to producing a useful idiot. 1. Source boomer offspring. 2. Remove concept of God. 3. Distract with sex and drugs. 4. Indoctrinate via college courses. 5. Once hair turns blue, unleash on society. 6. Discard after use. Yeah, we're somewhere between 5 and 6 in this sequence, I would say. So we'll see how bad it gets. Bubbly Noodle says, finally contributed to those rising gun sales and bought my first gun on Friday. I got a Glock 43X. Excuse me. They said I got lucky because those sell fast. Going to the range in 2 weeks to fire it. Long-lived 2A. Well, congratulations. And train well and train hard. And congrats on entering the self-defense community. Taking your own safety into your own hands. Good luck. Oh frankly, you guys are simply the best on the YouTubes. Cheers. Well, thank you for that. As long as Susan will have us, we'll be here. But it's another week out. Eric says, Matt, what is your favorite firearm manufacturer? As un-American as it is, mine is Heckler, and I actually don't know how they pronounce it. Heckler and HK. I should know more about how the latter, how the K is pronounced. HK. I don't have any HK firearms. I'm told of their reputation for quality, and I would love, what I'm waiting for most is the MP5. I want to have an MP5 style weapon and just can't afford the HKs. Pistol so it's a favorite firearm manufacturer for very wide purpose. I would say that in general, I own the two FNs I own is a really high quality, very reliable firearm. They suffer from a little bit of price markup that HKs do. If I were, even though I've never been a glove guy, I can't believe I'm saying this, but because I never have been, but the firearm that I own that I think has the greatest performance and reliability relative to its price is probably that Glock 19. I have cheap guns. I have some more pricey guns. I have guns that have failures all the time. I have guns that let smoothly all the time. I would say that the Glock that I have is right about that sweet spot where it's affordable and accessible to the average consumer, but it works every time with exceptions. So that's probably what I would say in terms of general boxes. Long Don John says, bad news out of Australia this week. Cancel culture came for Cool Cheese this week. In fact, they're owned by a Canadian parent company. It probably didn't help sad times press season. As one, I don't know who it was. Someone in the mailman, and I do know the name, but I didn't get contact information yet or return address. Someone from the mailman industry in Australia sent me a package of Cool Cheese all the way from Australia. I did not know that it would immediately become a souvenir of cheese was acceptable. Here we are. We got maybe one of Australia's best packages of Cool Cheese. So I'll hang on to it. Mark Weissman. And thank you, by the way, for the person who sent me the Cool Cheese. Thank you. Mark Weissman said, the election in Austin was stupid. There are 1 million legal carry licenses in Texas, and it sounds like people are glad. Nicholas, no, thanks for supporting the show, Nicholas. I got a banger, spelled like John Banger, but you can try your own pronunciation somehow. I got a banger. It says, the core modern philosophical debate is whether truth is subjective or objective. Guess which one the radical left argues for, which one leads to authoritarianism. Yeah, this gets at the concept of objective or subjective morality, too. If we don't have objective truth or objective morality in this world, we got a very messy, very difficult world to navigate, and I want no part of that. So it is very important for this world. Kazuma Beat King says, I look forward to the show every week. I'm really glad I can support you guys now after watching videos and getting out because I'm doing better now financially before Corona. Haven't took a dime from the government. Well, that's good. Congratulations. And certainly there are people in that position. And the thing that sucks is we've had government more aggressively paying for and then it has to pass, of course, pretty much always has to varying degrees. But that, it does really piss me off. Friends I have who maybe have run a certain business of a certain type, type of business, they're not succeeding or failing based on tax or numbers. They're succeeding or failing based on government's subjective decision about the necessity, the essentialness of their businesses. And it's just wrong. Of course, market demand, market consumption of information is what determines essential. It's very frustrating to watch. So as much as you might enjoy being one of the beneficiaries of the government paying for the news, assume that situation. That's the thing that sucks, is I'm sure you're aware that in general when we start picking winners and losers in this world, that comes back to finding out where you are potentially will benefit in the short term. Thanks for supporting the show. I'll hop over to Streamliners. Make sure I don't ignore our friends over there. Let's see what's going on. lost tonight who died standing up for BLM. Someone had to stand up for BLM because his wife certainly couldn't. Okay. You knew these were coming. Skip Mayfield, that poor girl. Good God. Skip Mayfield says Garrett Foster died as he. This is ginger defamation here. Can I read this? Do gingers count as a race for Susan's enforcement purposes? Garrett Foster, the guy in Austin, died as he lived a pathetic, useless ginger. That one. Well, we'll see. I just want to see what the facts of the matter are. I want to see what he did, and it seems to me that he very possibly could have been an aggressor in this case, but I will withhold my full judgment until we know exactly what happened. Candy Mac says, we lost my son's history teacher this week to coronavirus. Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. The community is reeling. He was such a patriot. He toured battlefields on his summers off, and unfortunately went to Georgia. He touched so many lives in Sarasota that I want to say God bless Coach Shaq. Well, all the best to your family and your community. I'm very sorry to hear that. Of course, Candy Mac is our resident respiratory therapist down in Florida way and has kept us in touch with a lot of the coronavirus ongoings in the hospital and clinical settings. So thank you, Candy Mac. All the best to you and your family and to your community and to Coach Shaq and his family as well. I'm sorry.
Coach Shaq is dead, so I don't think he's doing football.
Crypto Crook says, hey, my favorite YouTubers. Thank you for the Sanity Safe Space. Blonde looks beautiful. Mac is okay too. Okay is a great compliment. It also says, thank you. This Austin AK protester had peculiar sexual preferences, I must say. I can't reveal what may or may not have been said between Blonde and I in Skype chat before the show, but one has to wonder how certain activities were going on. What sort of use your imagination. Let's hop over to YouTube. Susan. Nicholas says, you guys don't need to think it's for patients with long maternity functions. Most chicks would be halfway into their maternity time off. Well, I certainly don't know how much, but I do think thank you for your patience is appropriate. You know, as much as we joke around in the show about it being a duct tape production, and as much as we like to keep it casual, we do take this seriously. I am very grateful to have the community that we do, and I know that you expect a certain product delivered at a certain time. And given some of the complications right now, some of that is compromised, so we just thank you for sticking with us and for giving us the understanding that we're doing the best we can and working as hard as we can. So thank you. Brianna Heilman says, usually watch Monday, but Hangover has me couch ripped so I can catch live. Congrats, Blonde, on the baby. Feels like everyone's happy days. Well, thank you. Thanks for tuning in and for supporting me. Jay says, we need to call these rioters criminal what they are, just terrorists. I believe they are no longer countrymen and neighbors, but our enemy, and how they want to completely destroy us. Well, terrorism is the use of violence with a political aim. I don't know what else to call it in all of these situations. I think it's a perfectly appropriate term. And I agree. It's not just that they want to use violence against us for political aims. It's that we don't share any common political foundation. I am increasingly worried and nervous and really baffled at the question, how do you share a country with people who don't believe in fundamental rights or property? If we don't agree on those basic premises, there's not much that can be shared, to be honest, because you're saying you should be able to come to me and violate my rights and steal my property if the mob deems it necessary. Sorry, I don't know how we to find villains for a while. We would do that. Blunt wanted to come back the week after the kid was born. That was her decision.
Oh, she's a go-getter,
her dedication to the show is appreciated. And I agree. As I said, I'm not apologizing, just thanking you guys. It's not a sorry thing, it's a thank you. Rachel Jane says, hi friends, looking forward to enjoying the show tomorrow, but in the meantime, wanted to send a chat and support. I appreciate what you're doing each week with this show. Keep up the fantastic work. Thank you, Rachel. We appreciate that very much. And thanks for tuning in. Nancy Muncie says, Missouri Law 571030, unlawful use of weapons. Exceptions, penalties. Part 4, exhibits in the presence of one or more persons angry or threatening that man. This is the law of process. How else do you use a gun? Well, thanks for supporting the show. And
I am not definitively.
I guess, I mean, you don't necessarily have to be angry or threatening. If you're defending yourself or your property, you don't necessarily, that's not necessarily angry, and it's not threatening per se. It's saying, leave me alone, stop violating my rights, and go away. That's kind of what it's saying. Yeah, I agree. The concept of using a gun happily and with benevolent intentions toward other people is sort of an odd one, but you'd have to ask a sort of lawyer, I suppose. I think that should be back soon. I think that's into the sports story because sports story in the interest of time. Shortly, we'll catch up with a couple more super chats. Richard Enormous says, I live in Quebec. Or is it Quebec? I never know how you French Canadians say it, so I'll go with Quebec. Where people usually write the government's meat. There have been several serious protests about mandatory masks. Canucks are questioning government power faster than I thought. Well, that's good to hear. There was a crazy story. We'll get to it a little bit later. A mask encounter. A guy in Canada refused to. Oh, there we go. A guy in Canada refused to put a mask on at the store, and it ultimately resulted in a fatal police shooting. We'll get to that one shortly. But thank you guys for supporting the show. We got an ultra spicy question for you from Amber. I can't hear you. Did you mute the mic or did I do it?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I lost your video again.
Oh, well, let me fix that. I'll invest in a new one this week.
Spicy, you said.
This is definitely Susan Bates. Question for Blonde. Would you rather have your daughter marry some soy-filled white Marxist, a based black guy, be a dyke, or be a femcel? Female femcel.
That's a trap. None of those things are good.
She's going to marry Jared. That's what's going to.
No, he's way too old. But
Jared
she is going to
Taylor's
marry. And she's going to marry James. Oh,
there you go. Does he have kids?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. She's going to be in some prearranged marriage.
The latter part of you know what shows?
Oh, Robin's kid, of course.
You know what show's great on Netflix? Have you watched this Married at First Sight show?
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I've watched a little bit. But it's pretty. The concept is arranged marriages, and then they file the couple. So, but it's kind of entertaining.
But they follow the couple.
Through like 8 weeks or something after the marriage to see how it goes. The marriages are arranged based on values and all that stuff, but they don't actually meet their person until the wedding. Anyway, the latter half of your chat here, Cameron. I think I have to tap out on that. He's just saying some people in Austin hang out and hang out. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Cameron. Man, Cameron's doing his best. Cameron's doing his best to get Susan in here to process this out. Anyway, okay, you ready? I was going to go ahead without you because I figured I could spare you the sports talk, but now it's sports talk time. So.
I didn't miss anything today.
No. But
Sorry, she just needed a little more move tonight.
I was about to hop into sports. Figure you wouldn't be mad at me for doing that because it's sports.
Wouldn't have been.
But a lot of people, myself included, were looking forward to the return return of sports, some form of entertainment and not constant politics until sports decided to also be constant politics. So, the name, the news about the name of the Washington
Holy fuck.
the team formerly known as the Washington Redskins, years of resistance, team ownership has finally caved to the mob. And because they couldn't have in short notice to be a suitable name permanently or a suitable mascot permanently, for this season they're going with Washington Football Team, assuming that would be a safe name to have for this season, which would actually be construed as offensive to anybody. But in any case, there's not that much to that story, other than we will have a full NFL season of a team literally called the football team. One of the teams will be the football team. Baseball is also baseball is back as well, though. And baseball is an American tradition to a lot of people. To me, of course, I don't live in a baseball market. I love going to baseball games. I wish I did. It's one of the things I miss about the city. But I don't. To me, baseball is great to have on in the background while you're doing your summer grilling and all of that. It's just a great piece of summer that you're supposed to enjoy. Well, now it's American tradition to shit on America. So the summer are getting with the times. There was this scene this week from the San Francisco Giants this week. Now, to me, it ended baseball season before it even started. They're not just kneeling for the anthem, but they're kneeling with masks. This was the scene earlier this week. At least I think that was at the Oakland Coliseum. In any case, you have the Giants kneeling for the anthem in masks, doing the most 2020 thing of all time. Yeah, I know it's one team, it's one scene, it's one game, but it didn't stop there. Actually, what happened with this was Major League Baseball and the San Francisco Giants Twitter account and Major League Baseball's official Twitter account tweeted out that video with hashtag Black Lives Matter emoji. And not only did they do that, but then the official MLB Twitter account, the blue check at MLB, because they got a bunch of pushback, people saying, come on, I don't want politics in sports, please. I just want baseball, please. I don't want a Marxist anti-America pregame show, for the love of God. And a ton of people are responding to MLB saying that MLB, the official account, starts mixing it up with these randos, debating politics with random people on Twitter, responding saying things like it's never been about the military or the flag, but the players and coaches are using their platforms to peacefully protest. Supporting human rights is not political. It's not even like Donald Trump and how it's done this. The president and how it's done this. It wasn't MLB responding to the president or some high-profile person. Literally Twitter randos saying, please, don't politics. Oh, you're getting politics, or actually it's not political at all. Here we are. So, you got MLB, instead of going in on baseball month play and saying, yes, baseball is back, baseball, it's all baseball all the time, instead they're jumping in with politics as though this is going to please their audience. And that was one thing I see in the official season opener between the Nationals and the Yankees. Players held this bizarre black slash together and listened to what sounds like a Maoist speech from Morgan Freeman about hope and change and empathy and some other nonsense. This is a weird scene.
Well, we're equal as those people, but you're never going to get equality.
What the hell am I even watching? Like, it's nothing but nonsense platitudes and this weird dystopian voice from the sky and nobody in the audience and everyone doing these sort of quasi-religious gestures or rituals.
Oh.
And it wasn't players to put social justice message patches on their jerseys and things, but really it's just Black Lives Matter. Some players have Black Lives Matter patches on their jerseys. The mound at the Yankees Nationals game had BLM on the mound, like political messaging on the mound of the baseball field. So we're dealing with that, and of course, the NBA is soon to resume play as well in Orlando. They're set to return to play. They have basically this massive quarantine set up in Orlando where all the players are tested all the time coronavirus and they'll stay in this massive play. And that's how the NBA is going to return. Well, the courts are going to have Black Lives Matter on the courts, so we get that to look forward to. And a side note of what's hilarious, you have this heavily tested environment that's clean of coronavirus, and you have all these basketball players sweating on each other for hours in the same ball for hours.
Sounds pretty gay.
But if they go sit on the bench or on the sidelines, they have to be socially distanced. They have to sit 6 feet apart, even though they can sweat all over each other on the court. Okay. The WNBA, though, the WNBA is taking it one step further. This weekend, players from the New York Liberty and the Seattle Storm just walked off the court from the national anthem, so I guess call them the Commies or New York Comets. The anthem was played, we saw the players leave the floor, go back to their respective locker room. One of those actions we'll see throughout the season as part of the social justice initiative.
Yeah, first of many ways that we will see WNBA players using their voices all season long. This is nothing new for these women. They have been proactive when it comes to speaking out on social injustices for the life of the WNBA.
By the way, record attendance at the WNBA. Congratulations.
Yeah, I saw like 5 people.
To these women. Impressive. I've been told, I don't know if it's true, but I would believe it. I heard people claiming on Twitter that the WNBA actually operates at a loss and is subsidized by the NBA.
I believe it.
Probably.
Do you know anybody that has ever gone to the WNBA game?
You would have to pay me, and not an insignificant amount of money. I would need at least 3 figures to go to a WNBA game.
I agree.
So yeah, it's, for these women though, not only do you live in the country of the greatest opportunity that the world's ever seen, you also have the work of those you also have the work of the patriarchy propping you up, basically. And you still complain, and we talk about this all the time. I don't demand that we have some big giant pro-America pregame show. People say that, well, the national anthem is itself a political show. All I need is just don't just be grateful. Can you just be grateful? Just be grateful for that. Too much to ask.
Yes, apparently it is.
There
To play women's sports.
Yes, subsidized by millionaire men who are apparently impressed. There were some other sports on this segment. But speaking of Corona's effect on sports, obviously no fans at any of these baseball games. But Fox Sports is looking to fix that. They're putting in digital virtual fans and fake cheering and booing. Now check out this hilarious nonsense. Fake cheering. Fake booing. That's just weird. I mean, it looks like those bad video game, like bad crowds in Madden 95. Maybe not that early, but it
2000.
doesn't look real. It's anti-human nonsense, is what it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is some end of day shit. You know, the last time I got that feeling was when I watched the trailer for Cats.
Oh yeah. Did that movie ever come out and they just scrap it? That was a weird
I
one.
think it got terrible reviews, but I remember watching that thinking, it's all over.
Yeah, they tried to actually make the cats very human-like, and that was the problem.
Taylor Swift's cat had like long titties.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then the other piece here was Anthony Fauci's first pitch So Dr. Anthony Fauci, he threw the first pitch at the official season opener in Major League Baseball between the Yankees and the Nationals. I'm sure you've seen it by now, but just in case not, this was one of the worst first pitches I have ever seen.
And now one of the more well-known Washington National fans, Dr. Anthony Fauci, to throw out the first pitch.